Bruce Schutter with the Mental Health Warrior Program.
Can you tell me a little bit about your own mental health journey?
Yes, I have bipolar disorder, alcoholism, anxiety disorder, and PTSD. Those are the four big ones, which of course spin out into things like depression, also with part of the bipolar mania. And a lot of this has been a lifelong journey. This has been something that started when I was in high school. That's when I really noticed it. And if you want, do you want me to go into the short story here a little bit, or?
Yeah,
Oh,
please.
okay.
Time's
Sorry.
yours. Yeah.
Sometimes I run on, so I just like to check. um, it basically started when I was in high school. I started noticing, for example, my emotions. They were always at the ends of the spectrum. I never seemed to be in the middle like the rest of my friends. I had a lot of trouble with anxiety, but I had no names to put to any of this. I didn't have any diagnosis at the time. As a matter of fact, there's really not a lot of information for anybody to even talk about it. So I just kind of went along knowing something was off, but I kept moving forward in life, jumping into more and more things. Particularly while I was in high school, I joined the rescue squad and then became an EMT. I was even driving the ambulance while I was in high school still. And I was going out on cases, life or death, and literally seeing that in front of me in my hands, as we're doing CPR and things like that. And I had no idea how to handle the regular emotions. And here I am jumping in the deep pool of life, if you will, just completely overwhelmed and trying to essentially at that point, trying to hide from my emotions. And my journey is defined by that a lot. I hid from them because I viewed them as the problem. I viewed them as something to cause me issues, not be able to do things because of anxiety, as an example. It led me then to turn to alcohol to try to tamp down those emotions or further hide from them, use it to prevent the anxiety, all sorts of things you do to try to just survive the day. And essentially, my journey kept going on. And I tell people on the outside, you got this line moving up and everything's looking good. I'm going through college, I'm getting a job, I'm moving along, getting married. But inside, I'm constantly crumbling. I have the opposite. That downward spiral is happening all the time. It didn't matter how good things looked on the outside. I felt terrible. I'm just hiding out. And again, I love to tell people I'm just surviving the day, which went on for years, and certainly not a good way to live, and certainly isn't going to make me any forward real progress, because no matter how much progress I was making with a job or purchasing a house or something like that, it felt hollow. I didn't enjoy it. I never had the time because I was always frenetic, if you will. And all of this just kept going for over 20 years. And I didn't even get a diagnosis until I was 40 years old, where somebody finally put some of the dots together. And unfortunately, it was because I got and felt so powerless after 20 years of struggling through this that I tried to end my life. And I got a second chance. And that's where finally people started to help me put some of the lines together and say, this is what you have. And I started some traditional solutions, things to do, but they didn't really work well, or they brought in other problems. So I said, well, there has to be more I can do. And the biggest turning point, the reason I started that was I took and looked and said, oh my God, everything I've been fighting against, emotions, embracing them, all the good and the bad ones, they're the solution, not the problem. And it was that mindset change that occurred again that started me on this whole journey. And that led me to see, if this is so powerful, what can we do ourselves every day? Because I didn't ever want to feel powerless again. And then I said, I don't want anybody else to feel powerless. So how can we every day be prepared? And people say, well, there's other ways you can do this. He said, but think about if you're ready to handle everything. So if you can handle it every day, it's very hard to see and get help every day, from an outside resource. Or what do you do? I always tell people too, what do you do when it's 2 a.m. and your thoughts wake you up and they're racing, or depression's telling you, don't even get out of bed and it's 2 a.m. I said, if you can handle that yourself, wouldn't that be amazing? And that was the whole concept of this Mental Health Warrior Program. I said, let's build a self-help approach where we empower everybody 24 hours a day. And you take that comfort zone you get with emotions and you can start to apply it to really enjoy life, go after the things that are important. Again, when you're hiding out or trying to survive, another tactic is you get involved in a million things, but you have no time for what's really important. You miss out on life. Sure, you're doing a million things, and people may say, wow, look at all those things you did this weekend, but it was probably busy work. It wasn't really getting to enjoy connections with people. I put those on the side, getting to celebrate what I did that week in positive things. No, I just feel like I was depressed, so I'd have to do something positive. Um, so that's kind of a quick journey through it that led me to that turning point at 40. And that was the start of this whole mental health warrior program, which has empowered me too. Of course, I want to be able to help people. I got to help myself first. And that was the whole idea of creating this.
Well, I also have bipolar disorder too, and I wasn't diagnosed till I was 37 years old, so later as well. And it was more like a aha moment. Did you have
Mhm.
that aha moment?
Yes, yes. When I sat down with a doctor and finally started just telling them some of these symptoms, and they said, "Well, that sounds like," and all of a sudden I'm like, "Oh, you gave me my starting point." I was so elated, which is so funny. You think it would be a bad day, but it was a great day to put a name to it because it gave me a spot to now learn, research, and figure out what I could do. And a lot of the other times, I was diagnosed with like general anxiety disorder along the way. I was diagnosed with some depression. I knew I was drinking, and I was an alcoholic and drinking all the time to cover my emotions, to hide from them. And again, some of these things, but you don't have the pieces that fit together. I couldn't figure out how they all interacted. I couldn't figure out what to do about them because it was, let's just dress one thing at a time. And again, I said, well, everything seems to feed off each other. So we kind of need that empowerment, that program that says it's okay to have multiple challenges. It's okay because you can do something about all of them at once throughout the day. There's lots of tools and things you can do. But I definitely understand what you're saying, and it's kind of an interesting thing because you go along for so long, and then suddenly you get information or a diagnosis, and you're like, that's something I needed too. And I think a lot of it was too. I was just simply too afraid to really be honest with a lot of people. So I would go to a doctor and tell them, well, yeah, I'm a little nervous, not really explaining I'm freaking out before a meeting or running away from things, hiding out. And so, of course, that didn't help either. So part of what I'd like to do too is this whole journey is to continue to tell people it's okay to have challenges because if you don't face the challenge, we're not going to make any progress either. We wouldn't be able to move forward.
So, can you tell me a little bit about your program?
Sure. So the whole idea is based on all these experiences I've been through and looking around. So as part of my journey, during those years, like for 15, 16 years, I was working in the information technology field. And I kind of built the program because I'm a systems analyst. So I like to look at things and break them down and see what we can do to fix them. So I decided, wait, what could we do? And I had gone and got trained as like a personal trainer, a health coach, nutrition coach. And every time I got some training to help people and something I wanted to do to help people, I saw, well, there's a mental health angle. I said, this is great. Let's take all of that and put it in a program. And the idea is the mental health warrior program. The very first part is we're going to be warriors. So we're turning something that everybody thinks is a negative into a very positive thing. We're going to face up to our challenges. We're going to be warriors and be able to move forward, set the direction for our life. And what I've done is created all these tools. And I started out by writing books. And right now we have 9 books as part of the program. Yeah, I had a lot to
Wow.
say. um, but what is interesting is I had a lot to say because I kept finding new areas. And the whole program is centered around lifestyle and mindset changes. So if you can imagine, we got to fix a little bit our thinking. And I don't mean we're broken. I mean thinking like I can do things, I can learn to celebrate things, I can turn things around, that type of thinking. And then there's lifestyle changes that we can do that will support all this, supporting our mental health. So the program dives into things like first, obviously, how to be a warrior, and you can step up and do this. And there's some components of the warrior. And it's just 4 of them, but each one has a power to like help you build this new life. So we start out with this creed, and it's bend not break. And the idea is these 3 simple words that you repeat is a way of living. Whereas before the least little problem came up, I would break. I would fall back to old habits. I would run back to short-term solutions. So we start to build the warrior path by doing that with a creed. Then we have values, which set the direction, like what you want to achieve in life. I also don't want to let my challenges win out. And then we move through that into like what I call kind of the action steps. And that's where we have things like mindset rules. and we have mental health tools that are part of the program. So those are your lifestyle changes. But all of this comes together and you keep applying it and you can use it throughout the day, and it doesn't interrupt your day, but it's something you can have in kind of, I call it a tool belt. And if you can imagine, the superheroes always have that great tool belt. You're in a situation, you can reach down, grab a mindset rule. And for example, mindset rules, the second mindset rule is respond, not react. And what it teaches us again is to give a little pause. Let ourselves adjust to whatever's happening. If there's some little crisis comes up, just take a little pause. You'll get a better answer. You'll be emotionally centered. And the idea is to, again, be able to handle things. And as we handle challenges, as you know, we start out with our diagnosis. We start getting better each day. And then we're going to take on new things. And it allows us, by staying together and being centered, to keep moving forward, because life's going to throw us new challenges as we take on new things. But it's a great journey, because we may take our life in a new direction. We may start getting back into connecting with people where we hid before. And that's what each of the books are designed to do, is to kind of focus in one area. Another thing we have these mindset rules, and they were so powerful, I built a whole library, and there's a book with 53 of them. So that makes sure you're well empowered, and it helps kind of even with personal growth, because you're trying to believe in yourself. And as you know, you've been through challenges for any number of time, you start to doubt yourself. You start to feel like you've failed or made mistakes. And we're trying to turn that around and rebuild that powerful mindset. And then some of the other areas where I have created this one book on 3 food rules, because food is really important and it can affect our mental health. And obviously it'll help improve our physical health, which again is connected. And there's some simple ways we can follow to eat better that'll help our mental health. And I kind of always like to tell people, you're going to eat every day, might as well make it work for you than against you. So if we stop taking all the sugar in and other things like that, we will certainly benefit from it across the board. And then the last part, so we have all these different books. And then I said, how do we bring the program with us too? How have I done this in the past? And at one point I worked as a contractor for the military. And I was doing IT support, but they have challenge coins, and the challenge coins about the size of a silver dollar. And it says, hey, I served somewhere, or I went through this mission. It's a sign that you've met the challenge and you've triumphed over it. And I said, that's perfect. Let's create one. So I created a Mental Health Warrior challenge coin as something you can carry with you every day. It gives you a tangible, something you can cling to, especially with anxiety or stress. You could take it in a meeting. It can be in your pocket, in your hand. It's very discreet, if you will, but it's very powerful support, because you can even put it on your desk and look at it, and it reminds you, hey, you're a warrior. You can triumph over challenges. So I'm trying to give a whole complete program, but it's also self-help. So that's the best part, is you can adjust it. And you have a tough day, or you have a tough thing coming up, you could find some more tools or practice a different way, a different approach, using some of the warrior tools. But if things are going good, you can also slow down a little bit and take time to enjoy the day. It's not something you have to work on every minute of every day, but it's available, so you never feel powerless.
With the books, what is it like getting all your thoughts, ideas, feelings out on the page?
It's very rewarding. It is certainly different, because I did a lot of writing when I was in the IT field with project plans and things. And I thought, well, I want to write everything down about like this program as I started to create it. But I had no idea. I said, how do you write a book? How do you tell a tale that isn't just a story? I'm not writing a mystery novel or something like that. And it was a neat challenge, but it's another thing that I look back on and say, the old Bruce, the one who was stuck in those challenges, he could never have gotten past page 1. And I'm just so pleased to have put all of this down. And what I love about it is it's my chance to have a conversation with people, because I feel like books, you can talk to the person kind of at their pace too, which is neat. Much like we're doing, we get to talk live here, but this is something neat that people, when they have time, they can reference it, but they can also like hear my thoughts and things. And I find that very rewarding myself. And I love the idea of the book being able to be shared where somebody gets it and then a family member sees it or a friend, and it's almost inadvertent, but they see it and they, oh, what's this? And then they have a conversation, which is exactly what I love about this whole idea of the program is it's something to talk about on a subject that a lot of people don't want to speak about. So we can say, hey, have you heard of being a warrior, a mental health warrior? And people are intrigued because they kind of want to talk, but they need that door opened. I kind of like the books to being opening the door too. It's really neat to be able to do that.
And just talking to you, I hear all your passion, and it's exciting and all that. How does it feel for you to be helping others?
It's as rewarding as when I was doing the EMT, and going to rescue squad calls, and you get a chance to impact somebody's life that directly. And I love that, and I was really rewarded by those experiences. Even the bad ones taught me life lessons today. I had to learn how to handle them. But what's really amazing is this passion today. I love, as you can tell, talking about it so much. I get so excited. I find myself in conversations in a fast food line going to get a Diet Coke up there, and somebody sees my shirt and says, "What's that?" We end up in a conversation, almost forgetting to order our sodas. And it's so rewarding because I say, I would never have had that conversation if I wasn't trying this path. And then, of course, being able to talk today to people instead of running and hiding. And it's just an amazing feeling because, again, when I started it, I thought I could kind of help people. But then I realized we're not just kind of helping them for just their problem. I'm trying to give them more something you can use the rest of your life and change the direction of your life. Like you get to choose it for a change, which I do because when I did this, I was under the control of all those challenges for those years. They controlled every decision I made. It was like stress comes up, you shoot back to drinking. How can I have time for that? How do I get through a meeting? Not how do I do well at it? How do I get this project done? I was more fearful the whole time. And so I liken this to, I am personally amazed that the power of our mental health. And that's one other reason I get so excited. It impacts everything in life. I used to think it was only in certain tough situations. And I realized, wait a minute, everything we do from hanging out with our friends involves emotions.
Yes.
And think about if we embrace them all, we can have an amazing life experience. I call it the full life experience. But there's nothing we have to be afraid of. We can literally manage all of those. And you can work forward on things. Again, I tell people all the time, I go to have an interview or I go to talk to people or even to put a book out. I have that courage, which today never would have existed if I didn't embrace my emotions. So they're amazingly powerful, which gets me very excited.
For me, I have my wife and kids as my support system, and they're doing a great job taking care of me, but I always want to take care of them. How important is it for you to also take care of your support system?
Oh, it's absolutely. I have learned to what it's like on the outside. So I, of course, know my experiences, like you're saying, but then I realized, wow, what am I doing to all the people around me? What do they feel? And the number one thing I heard was, we tried to talk to you, and they were, but we didn't know how, and we didn't know it was okay. And so it is really important as part of this program that we start talking to the people around us, particularly, so I'm married, my wife and I needed to talk. She needed to understand how we could talk about this, that if I said, oh, I'm a little depressed today, she didn't see me as saying, oh, I'm giving up. I'm not going to run for the hills. She learned I was just expressing an emotion, but then I'm going to take some action on it. And the best part is you start, again, I tell people, you want to have these conversations, but you have to start with yourself. And we always forget that. We always start thinking, oh, how are we going to help everybody else? I said, well, start with yourself and get yourself in a good spot where you can talk about things. And then it will spread outward because you will start talking to friends and family. And next thing you know, you're talking to them about this and you're comfortable. And then you talk to the next group you're with. And that's kind of like the thing with talking with strangers about it. I never would imagine I'd have conversations in the grocery store line, but it's only because I know that it's important to open the door and talk about it with people. So they help me out a lot because I can express things these days. I can talk about what used to occur and not worry them that I'm going to go back. And again, that's all part of, like you said, really important to sustain it. We want to make sure we can keep it going. We're not just trying to get through this week. Again, we're going to do this forever.
What do you do to help your own mental health?
Well, I love cooking, and I have found that to be really therapeutic. So that's one of the reasons I wrote this 3 food rules book, because there's suggestions in there on how to cook some stuff too and how to eat, because I loved to cook the foods, and I found it really is a great way to manage the stress. So if I'm angry or upset or need trying to solve and get out of depression, cooking is one. Another thing I do is we do workouts. Working out is really good, but we go outside these days and carry a sandbag around. The being outside means we run into people, we get outside to fresh air. Again, that physical mental health connection gets helped. And then I also give myself, the biggest thing too is I give myself permission to enjoy the things I really kind of, I don't know if I want to say dabbled with, but I didn't appreciate before. So one of the books that I wrote is called The One Bag Life. And the concept was, what if everything that could bring you happiness could fit in one bag? And you say, wow, that sure means I'm not going to have a lot of stuff. Obviously, I'd have less stuff, more experiences, is the line for the book. And I have found all these experiences. So things I do for my mental health are, we'll go out in the morning and get coffee, on the way to work or on the way to an appointment, but we stop and talk to the people there. We've run into some coffee groups, if you will. We know a few people. It's amazingly rewarding, and certainly something I didn't do before when I was struggling with my challenges. Maybe, again, dealing with alcoholism, you're certainly not going to be functioning the best at times. You don't want to talk to people. And I took all these little experiences and started adding them all up and saying, wow, everything I do today really makes me happier, more fulfilled. So I guess the answer is I've fine-tuned and added in things that I really enjoy that I was too busy for or too afraid to do. And that helps me every day with mental health, because I'm able to handle the emotions with it, if you will. I probably wanted to cook before, but I was too afraid I'd fail or it would be bad, so I wouldn't try. And now today I can tell you my worst cooking stories, but I can tell you the best. And it's really helped me.
Where do you want to see your mission in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, I would love to obviously keep spreading the word about this. And one of the things we're trying to do is engage with people more using technology. So using the social media, the way we can all connect, 100 different ways between text, emails, connections. I'd like to see that we keep talking to more and more people and kind of make that thing I was saying about whether you start with yourself and you talk and you build a support system, but we kind of change things as we're going. So in the next few years, what I'd like to see is more people using the program, but also discussing it with each other and sharing it. I'm really big on helping people start something and then share it with anybody around you. And I'll throw one last thing in we're doing with the program is I am writing blog articles each day. But in order to make it less scary and a little bit fun, we are writing how to use the program as I have conversations with certain characters from TV and movie shows. So a big one is Winnie the Pooh and his gang. And anybody who likes that, you can see right away we start laughing about it and we can enjoy it. And his gang struggles with mental health challenges, as we know from the storylines. We also talk about with John Wick. And so people can go there every day and hear how John Wick struggles, but there's always points you can take with you, tools or actions you can take into your life. And we're putting those out each day. So we're encouraging people to not only come and see the blog articles and read them, but then share them as a fun way, again, to open the door to conversation and to start this whole mental health talk with whoever you're with, your coworkers, friends, family. Again, I went through these struggles when I was at work or, in a corporate environment. And you want to talk about mental health if you're struggling, but you certainly don't want to say those words. But here's a clever way. You can say, well, I read this story about John Wick and let's talk about it. And, oh, I love that movie. Well, did you hear what he did with his mental health or how he used some of the warrior tools? So I'm hoping we will continue to spread this whole free exchange of ideas and things.
How can people reach out and learn more?
So everything starts and is centered around my website, which is bruceschutter.com. So it's Schutter. But I also know it's a tough spelling. So if they go out and type in Mental Health Warrior Program, that'll get you there too. And when you go to that site, you'll find all of these resources. So you'll see all of the books with explanations, help you pick which one's a good one to get started with. You'll see the blog articles and all those fun analogies. And there's the Warrior coin there. And then you'll also see some of our other resources that we've built, where interviews and other things like that. I keep them up there. That way people have a wide variety of ways to not only get in touch with us, but lots of free resources to get you started. And that's very key. We want you to take that first step.